The president flew to Camp David, met with his national security team. I know we live in a superficial world, and Gavin Newsom's hair and Donald Trump's gate are more important than possible World War III. I know that's true. But nonetheless, I remain stunned at how little coverage there is. We talked about this on Two-Way Tonight last night. I mean, the president is all but saying that Iran is about to be attacked by Israel. Here he is last night talking about that.
Can you provide an update on Iran? We're hearing reports that U.S. personnel are being moved out of the region within striking distance.
Well, they are being moved out because it could be a dangerous place, and we'll see what happens. But they are being, we've given notice to move out, and we'll see what happens.
Is there anything that can be done to dial the temperature down in the region?
They can't have a nuclear weapon, very simply. They can't have a nuclear weapon. We're not going to allow that.
Now, in earlier comments at the White House, the president, if you're a student of Donald Trump, again, all but said Israel's about to attack Iran. And here, for the latest, is the morning meetings Israel correspondent, Alistair Bunkle. Alistair.
The nuclear talks between America and Iran are continuing. Donald Trump has said that he hasn't got as much confidence as he did that a deal can be done. And so this could be a way of ratcheting up the pressure further. Steve Witkoff, Trump's point man, is due to meet the Iranian foreign minister for another round of those talks in Oman this weekend. The Israelis have never really made any secret about the fact that they think the time is right to attack Iran. They believe that Iran is as weak as it has been for a long time, both politically but also in its military defenses. When the Israelis attacked Iran some months ago, following sort of a round of rocket fire between the countries, they took out a lot of the air defenses. And I think there's a concern within Israel that if they leave it for too long, those air defenses will be rebuilt. But they have a window at the moment to get fighter jets into Iran to attack the nuclear sites.
Alistair, thank you for that report. Please stay safe.
His interview with Minister Reeves coming up, I'm very excited for. I hope we have time to show that.
It'll be Botho and smashing. Brilliant. Sean, there's so many questions I want to ask you about this, but I'll start here. Is there any reason to think Israel is not about to attack Iran? You have some Obama and Biden foreign policy people on Twitter saying this is all a bluff to force them to the negotiating table this weekend with Witkoff. But do you share my view that this is Israel's about to attack Iran?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. Why isn't that being being covered more?
Because
I know there's a plane crash. I know Gavin Newsom's hair, but I mean, this is a massive story.
I got to go back to my default, which is I just don't think a lot of reporters understand it or have a grasp of foreign policy. And because to me, they're going to look back and I guarantee you when this thing happens, they're going to talk about a surprise attack. Suddenly did this when it was telegraphed for days. So I can't answer the journalism part. I can answer the strategic part, which is it's going to happen.
Dan, if the president, if Israel strikes Iran, what then? What then? I mean, what happens after that?
Well, I mean, that's the $1 million question. And I think that's what Trump has feared. I mean, I texted you guys on Sunday at the Camp David that I thought they probably were meeting about attacking Iran. And of course, it's also out that he talked to Netanyahu Monday, which did not get any coverage on Monday or Tuesday. And I think yesterday was the first time it was reported. Look, I think the question is, do American assets and personnel get hit in retaliation? And then what happens if a barracks is blown up and U.S. soldiers are killed? The pressure on President Trump to respond is going to be immense. To what extent do we aid Israel? Because I'm sure they're going to do something to try to get back at Israel. And if there's severe damage in Israel, does Israel sit quietly and say, all right, we took out your nuclear bunker, but you blew up a few apartment buildings and we're going to call it even? This is what everyone from Obama to Trump to Biden has feared. A war breaks out and we are stuck in the middle with, obviously on behalf of Israel, and where it goes from there, we'll see.
Well, Dan, to your
what
point about on behalf
yeah.
of Israel, the second that they strike any U.S. asset,
Yeah,
then it's not
us.
about Israel. It's about us, and we
Correct.
must retaliate. And I think if that gives us the excuse to put an end to all of their capabilities, then so be it. But look, this goes back to the bigger, broader point about getting a deal with Iran. They have made it very clear we're a sworn enemy. The idea that anyone thinks that you can get a deal with Iran is nuts. And so, as painful as this may be the logical extension of what has to happen next in order to get to a finality.
Well, and I think
your friends Trump and Witkoff don't think it's nuts. They're trying to negotiate a deal.
Yeah, and by the way, that just on that point, they have ping ponged between you can keep a little bit of nuclear material to you can have no nuclear material. So even Trump's team seems to be all over the place.
Well, there's a difference. First of all, just to be clear, I don't believe you can have any. These guys can't be trusted. So the idea that you can use it for commercial purposes is crazy in my mind, as if that's what they're going to contain it to.
By the way, we put that in writing to them.
Yeah.
And not there.
Yeah. All right. Let me ask you this. Well, if Israel attacks, and again, it might be dependent on what the nature of it is, what do the Saudis, the Russians, the Chinese say? Anybody have any idea on those three?
It's interesting. If you're China, I think you kind of like the fact we get bogged down potentially in the Middle East again. I mean, it lets Taiwan, it lets you kind of continue your march around the world, which started with us in Iraq. Mark, I think the other interesting question is it splits the Democrats and Republicans. Like there is no unity in either party on this issue, which would be remarkable heading into primary season, the fall, like everything. Because there's all this talk about MAGA completely split, some trying to convince Trump to bomb, some Tucker Carlson saying, don't do it. It's crazy.
So the answer to your question, in my opinion, is it depends. So this is like when Ukraine did that drone strike on Russia, and I said right afterwards, Putin's not going to sit back and just allow that to happen, and he didn't. Iran is not going to allow Israel to strike with impunity and not retaliate. That's just not in their DNA. So the question becomes what's the battle damage assessment from what Israel does? Do they hit just military and government targets? And then two, what is Iran's response to Israel? Do they take it over the top? Do they bring in U.S. assets in their targeting sequence? So the answer to everything in terms of not just us, but the rest of the world is it depends, because how this thing escalates between the two of them will depend on how everyone else reacts.
Well, and I think those monarchs in the region that are friendly to us will face huge domestic pressure to likely side with the, kind of the uprising, even though they hate the Iranians, and that could create instability with those monarchs.
Want more great clips like that? I've got an idea. Hit the subscribe button, be part of the Two-Way community, never miss a clip, and you can always watch our full episodes, join them live, go to twoway.tv.